What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction and back with some more Tori Amos, as well as Luca is sitting perfectly in the way. Yes, I know. And we're finishing the Under the Pink album, 1994, and the next track, or rather the last track, is Yes, Anastasia. I wanted to give a big shout out once again to Nigel for sharing, and we'll be back on Du Bois for Pele, which I started many moons ago, briefly, before then jumping back in time. But yes, Anastasia sounds like a reply to an Anastasia in an affirmative way, which is to say the idea of being asked a question, and whether it's about reassurance, whether it's about confirmation, whether it's about an acceptance of, like, yes, Anastasia, we can do that, or yes, we're going to do that, or yes, you're correct, or yes, you don't need to worry. It feels like a response, almost like in a motherly way. Obviously, Anastasia could be an adult, but when you're talking to another adult, you don't always use their name, or at least in English-speaking culture. In some other linguistic cultures, using someone's surname or their name, even when it's just you and them talking in a room, is more common. But in English, you would normally just say, yes, that's true, or yes, we can do that. So to say, yes, Anastasia, there's a familiarity, but also it sounds maternal or maybe paternal. The idea of speaking to a child and referencing their name as part of your connection to them. So either way, it sounds like part of a dialogue. I'll see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Tori Amos. The track is Yes, Anastasia, and it's the final tune on her 1994 album Under the Pink.
I know what you want.
Oof.
The magpies have come.
The Magpies?
If you know me so well, then tell me which end are yours. Restaurant, puppy, don't go. I know your mother is a good one, but puppy, don't go. I'll take you home. Show me the things I've been missing. Show me the ways I forgot to be speaking. Show me the ways to get back to the garden. Show me the ways to get around. Show me the ways to button up buttons that have forgotten their buttons. Well, we can't have that forgetting that. Girls, girls, what have we done? What have we done to ourselves? Yes. Driving on the line over clotheslines, but officer, I saw the sign. Thought I'd have been through this in 1990. Counting the tears of 1,000 men and gathered them all, but my feet all slipping.
Hopefully that was the only like glitchy part of the file.
There's something we left on the windowsill. There's something we left, yeah. We'll see how brave you are. We'll see how fast you'll be running. We'll see how brave you are. Yes, Anastasia. I know you don't lose a friend. Thought she deserved no less than she'd give. Oh, happy birthday, her blood's on my hands. It's kind of a shame, 'cause I did like that dress. It's funny, the things that you find in the rain, the things that you find, yes. In the moonlight, in the daylights, in the nights too, in high rain.
assume that was the lid on the keys closing. An incredible performance completed, and once again, not only did we hear that, but there was a moment where I could hear her like breathing in and about to start singing. So there's an intimacy, a personality to her music, and a personable nature to her music that is captured in the natural sounds and setting in which she seems to record some of her songs. I mean, that was crazy. I thought it was ending about, I guess, halfway through, and I was about to remark that, wow, that was like an art folk sonata in piano form, and then the moment I said that, or thought that, it erupted into a symphonic scale, and thus suddenly felt more like a full orchestra concerto. So just, I mean, the composition alone, just the sequences, the like soft and emotional moments, and then almost a bit quirky and sprightly moments, and then grand and sweeping sonic configurations, and the way those were sequenced together, the composition of this is crazy just to begin with. Vocally, it's that same dynamic and yet completely comprehensively human delivery that I think characterizes her style, and I think this is another great example of that. So I love her vocals on this one. Lyrically, I don't know, it sounds like we're maybe going through multiple scenes over time. Certainly there was that part at the beginning where, what was it, something about like a lost dog at a restaurant, or at least it seemed to make reference to some dog that they were thinking because it sounds like it was her and another kid maybe, but was saying like, oh, like mom is loving, but pop is something else. Like it sounded like there was maybe a contrast being drawn and wanting to take someone or something home to give it a better home. And I wondered if it was, again, like maybe an experience she shared with another young person. But then there was the line later that was something like, your blood is on my hands and it's a shame because I really like that dress. And it sounds like someone's been wounded. Obviously you can bleed from a more trivial injury, like a paper cut or something that, I suppose paper cuts do hurt a little bit, but is not in any way life endangering or even a grave injury, but leads to bleeding. But if you're bleeding such that your clothes are being ruined, then it suggests you're bleeding a lot. And bleeding a lot, generally speaking, for living organisms is not a good thing biologically. So then I wondered if she was with this other person, Anastasia maybe, when they suffered some injury, whether she caused it, whether there was some violence, interpersonal violence. And I don't know, like it just felt again like we were going through a sequence of scenes that maybe played out over a longer time span. Now maybe this is all confined to a short time span. Maybe it's all references to a youthful time, and Anastasia could be a childhood friend that either passed away or was no longer part of her life, but it feels like there's recollection happening here. But again, I wondered if that was taking place over a years-long span. Either way, it feels like a very personal narrative. That's not to say that it's autobiographical. Of course, you can create characters and an entire narrative for a song, and maybe partly it's her personable way of singing that makes me keep thinking like, oh, this must have been some huge part of her life. Now, fair to say, there have been a couple songs that were about intense and unmistakably autobiographical experiences. So in that regard, I suppose I'm also a bit skewed to wonder whether this is talking about a real person. Maybe not someone named Anastasia. You can obviously switch someone's name, but you're still singing about a very real person. And I wonder what other characters might be at play, and whether, the reference to this dog, which, if I even heard that right, could be more incidental or even, more directly related to what this is about on a larger scale. Nevertheless, I am intrigued by the, storybook, or, what's the right word, piano poet expression of this story, even if I don't know quite what the story is on a fuller sense, just sort of brief, quick visual snapshots that I'm not quite sure how they link together, or how link together? No, I think how they link. Syntax. But yes, just an incredible album, a remarkable finish. I feel like that was a very long tune. I mean, even the halfway point I thought would have been like 4 or 5. Okay, so that was 9.5 minutes. It didn't feel that long. The experience of it felt maybe like 6.5 minutes. So telling that 9 minutes can pass, and it's like I feel like, it's just getting started, or it could go longer. Nevertheless, that is a very long tune, and one which seemed to have almost like different acts, like a Shakespearean play, or like a concerto, like a symphony even. So I do wonder whether that was partly the idea, to have different scenes, different acts, different movements in a larger, multifaceted work. And just what a way to finish an album. And like, not just finishing an album with a song like this, but finishing an album with this long held, I think it was like a, very low down the piano note, just hanging there and seemingly like drifting off into the distance. Then it stops, a moment of quiet, and then a closing of the piano. So yeah, just a job well done, an album well concluded, and a performance like few others I've ever heard. So yeah, just remarkable. Looking forward to getting back to Boys for Pele. Let me know what you think of this one. Once again, shout out to Nigel, and wow, that's all I had to say. Peace.